So one of the questions that I have in my mind is,
Okay.
based on computational biology, sir, what are the changes that we see happening in the human form, sir?
No, which sense? We'll see changes all around. The general principle
For
is,
example, they say that since we are so much dependent on technology, we may have a very small size of the brain in future. Is that so, sir?
see, we can't say, but broadly in evolutionary biology, there's a concept of vestigial organs. So, for example, your appendix is a vestigial organ. There are so many things. Look at, see, all our 4 limbs should have been similar, but we can do very little with our feet. We can do a lot more with our hands. So with the sole of our feet, we cannot do as much as we can do with the palms of our hand. Again, it is an example of vestigial thing. We cannot move our ears in a certain direction of sound because we don't have to be so alert to sounds. Animals can move their ears to get the kind of a sound. So you're absolutely right, depending upon how it will evolve. We will, but it is not necessary that the brains can become small. The brains may have to become larger because the kind of challenges they are taking are bigger. So now with the new kind of thing, artificial intelligence, machine learning, etc., you may need a more developed brain, not a less developed brain. See, the assumption, if we had the same things to do, maybe we could do with a less developed brain. But because we want to do a lot more, see today, the way you remember, let's say 100 years ago, going from one place to another would be very difficult. Today, we move all across the globe without, in fact, the pandemic was caused because we move all around the globe. Now, tomorrow, you will be going for to the moon. I mean, I say that our children and grandchildren will go for their honeymoon to the moon, and then they will go for something to the Mars, and so on. So they may need more highly developed brain and more technology. Okay.
Okay, so we've already landed on the Mars also.
So I would like to ask a question that is, will there be a relation between biology and the mood swings or psychology?
Oh,
would there be a connect?
See, there is already, so there is a piece of research done on bipolar disorders, and they looked at mice and they gave them lithium nitride, once with lithium 6 and then with lithium 7, and the behavior was different. So just one more neutron in the lithium nitride which was fed to the mice, the behavior was different. And they're looking at this to study bipolar disorders.
So there is going to be a connect between the two.
There is a connect. We have to understand the connect. The connect exists. We need to understand it better.
Thank you.
Today, I'm Anu Mishra. I teach physics at the school. And
very
today, yes, every time I've been attending.
Now? You want to switch to biology now?
Everybody should learn biology.
Yeah. Yes, of course. No doubts in that.
Ma'am is listening. It's music to my ears.
No doubts to that. Yeah. I remember a few years back when I had attended one of your workshops. It was Industrial Revolution, regarding that, the 4th Industrial Revolution. That time, a lot of importance was given to the quantum computing and things like that. But today I'm glad this is coming up, and it is coming up as more integrated. Rather, I would not like to somewhere differentiate between biology and physics. It is more of a science, and the science that we are using. So my question here is, sir, do we have advancements in by the field of science, I would rather say, where we can couple up our brain with some external intelligence? Like hum abhi bhi computers we are using, it is an extension of our brain we are using. We know how to use it, but क्या हम directly couple कर पा रहे हैं कहीं पर? जैसे मुझे लगा कि मेरी बुद्धि कम है तो मैं थोड़ा सा मार्केट से खरीद लूं, something like that.
So let me tell you. So Elon Musk has a company called Neuralink, which is directly connecting your brain to computers. So without having, so anything you're thinking, you're imagining, etc., all those thoughts can directly go to a computer. So you don't need an interface where you put in or push in by speaking or keyboarding or something. And this has been very useful. You must have heard of Stephen Hawking. He was totally paralyzed. And the only way he could do was to connect the brain to the computer, to his brain to the computer, and so on and so forth. So as we progress, there will be more and more of this. So that is the answer. It will be more. See, as I said in that vivid example, between understanding how to do something and actually being able to do it is a long journey. It is getting shorter and shorter these days, but it is still a long journey.
सर तो वो दिन दूर नहीं है जब हमें लगेगा कि हमारी इंटेलिजेंस थोड़ी कम है, बच्चे की इंटेलिजेंस थोड़ी कम है, तो हम मार्केट में जाके एडिशनल इंटेलिजेंस ले लेंगे.
हाँ, श्योर श्योर. सो इनफैक्ट वो तो जब पहली बार ये आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस की बात हुई थी तो कुछ लोगों ने कहा ये जो वीक स्टूडेंट्स हैं उनके लिए है क्या, कि जो कि अपनी इंटेलिजेंस नहीं है उनको आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस दे देंगे. सो वो है. But the point is, this is actually called cognitive surplus. We always use the other abilities of other people to help ourselves. So whether it is physical abilities or intellectual abilities, both of them. So I have this famous thing which I say that in good schools, I've never studied in a school like that, but in a good school, there used to be a tradition of teaching horse riding to people. And the reason why we taught horse riding was that the horse is a difficult animal. Now, if you are timid, it will throw you out. But if you can ride a horse, you can go very far. So some of these AIs will be like that. If you are scared of AI, it will take away your job. But if you can ride on AI, you can take away other people's jobs.
Because
So there is a, yes, Arun. There is a,
I wanted to actually complete this one, Sonia ma'am.
yes.
So it was like कि एक जमाना होता था जब हमारे पास जो ज़्यादा powerful होता था, you know, in the community, that used to be the leader of the community.
Correct,
and slowly with the things replacing the muscular power, so everybody came on the equal as far as muscular power was concerned. So I think in near future we'll not have anything like कि ये कम intelligent है, ये ज़्यादा intelligent है, and this will open up opportunity for lot more people.
Sure, sure. See, how you put together the resources available to you. See, right from the principle of the lever, where you use the strength of that lever to add strength to yourself. And we actually now use something called leverage, which means taking advantage of anything that you have. So it will become a sum total. So just like in energies, we say sum total of kinetic energy, potential energy, and maybe self energy. Similarly, you will say all the things that you have available at your disposal, your own strength, your friend's strength, your team's strength, your opponent's weakness, all this will help decide who will be the winner.
Sir,
Thank you very much, sir.
good morning. Niti Gulati this side, sir. I have been getting break-in my connection every now and then. I just wanted to ask you, probably you have already touched upon this and I've missed this because of the break-in connection. The way we perceive things, you know, different people perceive the same thing differently.
Yes.
So do you think there is a possibility of this quantum biology in the future explaining, you know, why could it be?
Yeah. No, you don't have to go all the way to quantum. We perceive things differently because of our different positions. Now, you know that the color can be seen differently depending upon what color background you have put in. The whole movie experience is based on those pictures moving at more than 10 frames per second. We typically have them at 24 frames per second. So whatever we experience, in fact, there's a very famous experiment I was came to know of it as a child. Put one of your hand in warm water, another hand in cold water, and then put both these hands in tepid water. The two hands will feel different because they came from a different sort of, you know, starting position. So therefore, there is perfectly all right. People will perceive things differently, and there's a big debate about whether there is an absolute truth or not.
I think I probably did not ask my question right. My question actually was, let's say if I'm talking about a piece of art that I'm looking at.
Yeah.
So the kind of, you know, perception that different people would have towards it aesthetically or that way.
Yeah. So this is perfectly all right. I mean, it is not only a piece of art. Anything. There's a famous thing that we do in ethics about giving people problem depending upon the disposition. People have different responses. So the standard question is that a person whose wife is dying and needs the medicine desperately, goes into a medicine shop, breaks open, gets that medicine, leaves the money there and brings it for his wife and saves the wife. What is it? Now the strict adherence is, no, he should not have broken into the thing. The one who look at this and so on. So there's a lot of, in fact, if you enjoy this kind of thing, then Michael Sandel of Harvard University has a very nice set of lectures, The Idea of Justice, where he talks about what is the right thing to do. And this depends upon your various circumstances, starting positions, perceptions, your goals. And these are, nothing is absolutely right or wrong. He talks very well about the principle of utilitarianism. So utilitarianism is about the largest good of the largest numbers. But he says that in certain cases, the Kantian philosophy works and so on.
Thank you so much, sir. You said the lecture was The Idea of Justice, right?
Yeah, Michael Sandel.
Right,
So
sir. Thank you.
it's a whole series of video talks. Very good. You'll thoroughly enjoy it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay, so now I think I have to wrap up because I have another session from 11 o'clock. So thank you all very much. I hope you found this interesting. And feel free to send me messages through your coordinators if you want, because sometimes our thoughts and ideas come later in time. Okay?
Yes, students do have a lot of questions, sir. They're posted in the chat, but we'll forward it to you.
So you can
that-
collect them and we can
Yes,
keep
sir.
responding
Yes,
to
sir,
them.
definitely. Anita ma'am, shall I proceed with the vote of thanks?
Yes, yes, yes. Yes.
Okay. First and foremost, I would like to thank our esteemed principal ma'am, who always provides the students and teachers with opportunities beyond the regular classroom curriculum. Thank you so much, ma'am. Sir, it is always an honor to listen to you. I wonder sometimes, is there any topic that you cannot, speak on? So there's no subject, I guess, that you can't touch upon and you can't, go into depth of those. It is always an honor to listen to you, and the science department and student always look forward to your sessions. It is amazing how you always relate examples with day-to-day life, and you inspire us to always ask questions and strive to find answers, which is actually the first step towards being a good scientist, I guess. You have introduced a new perspective and understanding to biology, particularly in this pandemic time. It takes so much importance. Thank you, sir, and we look forward to many such sessions with you.